Outside Parliament, there were calls to ease the lockdown or abandon it altogether. These protests, and much else too, is not allowed from midnight tonight, after MPs passed a second lockdown law with heavy hearts but a thumping majority.
The ayes to the right, 516. The noes to the left, 38.
At midnight tonight, the health service in England will be returning to its highest level of emergency preparedness.
Just before the vote, the NHS England boss added to a pro-lockdown barrage, which started at the weekend, with warnings of a death toll that could hit 4,000 a day.
There's the potential for this to be twice as bad compared to the first wave.
This graph now dubbed villainous by some Tory MPs.
Improve standards in government so that never again do we see a model like this which evaporates like morning mist under the sunlight of close inspection.
Can I first of all say to my right honourable friend that I don't envy him...
The Prime Minister walked out as his predecessor began. Theresa May looked unimpressed. She was one of many Tories who felt the government had leaked and spun to bounce MPs to back the lockdown U-turn.
So the prediction was wrong before it was even used. And this leads to a problem for the government, because for many people it looks as if the figures are chosen to support the policy rather than the policy being based on the figures.
I thought the leak is appalling, that whoever did it should be sacked, strung up to dry, come here to apologise, grovelled out the door on hands and knees, and beaten on the way out, frankly. Because, to be honest with you, this is appalling.
There are more exemptions for leaving your home than there were in the spring lockdown regulations, but they don't include playing tennis at clubs like this one in Michael Gove's Surrey constituency.
It's very safe at a distance, especially singles. I am disappointed that it will be closing.
When you've got a garden centre a mile up the road that is open and that's full of vulnerable elderly people that are all crowding around, where here you've got people at opposite end of courts, in the wide open spaces, it couldn't be safer really.
Hairdressers amongst the other businesses forced to close for 4 weeks from midnight.
A bit worried, yes, because we don't know. Because last time they saying the business shut for 3 weeks, and it takes 3 months.
The Labour leader said the Prime Minister had missed an opportunity to have an earlier and briefer lockdown by not taking his own government scientists' advice.
The lower the rate of infection, the lower the admissions, the more chance there is to get the virus under control. That's why you have to go early. If you want to safeguard the economy, go early. How on earth has it helped the British economy to delay?
Whatever we do from the 2nd of December will require a fresh mandate and a fresh vote from this House. And as I have made clear, it is my express intent that we should return to a tiered system on a local and a regional basis according to the latest data and trends.
He was warned Tory MPs' patience might snap if they were asked to suspend liberties again.
They're pretty close to the end of their tether, and
it won't be like this again beginning of December if he tries to do the same thing.
I don't think there is a will in the country, and I don't think there is a will in Parliament for this cycle of lockdowns to go on and on.
Some shops had a burst of extra custom before being shut by law for a month. Some police forces warned those who flout the laws passed tonight with large gatherings or parties could face tougher enforcement than last time round.
Well, businesses in England, which have already been struggling to keep going, now face the prospect of shutting their doors altogether for a month at least. Our business and global trade correspondent Paul McNamara spent the day in Brighton, where shoppers, drinkers and fitness fanatics have been saying goodbye with a bang.
70?
For the fiercest of gym bunnies, it will be a long 4 weeks ahead.
80. And that's how I survived.
Paul was bedridden with coronavirus himself. Doesn't want it to spread, but doesn't want his beloved workouts to end either.
I finally got the best body that I've ever had in my life, so I'm really, really, really mad. But realistically, all it takes is one person coming in here with it. It's like bang everywhere.
How bad was the first lockdown for you?
Oh, it was brutal, absolutely brutal, you know.
This Brighton gym opened less than a year ago, and the last lockdown lost them 50% of their business. They've adapted to survive with online classes, But ultimately, they need people through the doors.
I don't want to be another number. We'll do everything that we possibly can to make sure that we aren't. But at some point, we'll have to face the truth. But that's not that moment. So we'll just keep going on.
No business ever wants to shut up shop. But for some sectors, the timing of this lockdown could not be worse.
The last 8 weeks of the year account for probably more than half of our overall year.
That much?
Yeah, it's more than half of our year in the last 8 weeks. And I spent my entire year preparing for these 8 weeks.
With one last day of freedom, people across England have been making the most of it. Before non-essential shops, bars and restaurants shut, and those who can work from home do. According to retail analyst Springboard, compared to last week, the number of shoppers out and about has doubled.
You've been busy this morning already?
Very busy, because it's last day today, so I think it's everyone out today.
Do you agree with the lockdown this time?
I don't.
Baha thinks 1 month is too short to sufficiently stop the spread of coronavirus, but long enough to wreak untold damage on the finances of her and countless others.
If it's longer than a month, then I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest.
Today, the Treasury insisted they have not done an economic impact assessment of this lockdown. The one think tank has estimated it could cost the UK £1.8 billion a day. Some businesses, of course, can still trade. They just might not be able to make any money.
What percentage of your business is to pubs and restaurants?
Probably 80%.
80%?
Yeah. So it's a big part of it.
So even though you've been able to stay open, how big an impact this year has coronavirus had on your finances? Just gone.
We're not even, it's gone. We just hope it gets better for next year.
As firms fought to make as much money as possible today, High Street giant John Lewis announced 1,500 job losses. The big questions: how many more will be lost over lockdown? How many businesses will tonight be shutting their doors forever?
Well, the latest daily government COVID figures show there have been 25,177 new positive tests. There have been 492 deaths across the UK, the highest daily toll since mid-May. That brings the official total to 47,742. Let's hear more now from our health and social care editor, Victoria MacDonald, who's outside University College Hospital in London. Victoria.
Krish, there was a hastily, I think, arranged press conference here today, perhaps timed to go ahead of the vote in the House of Commons on tomorrow's lockdown. It was NHS England and the head of NHS England, Sir Simon Stevens, warning people. You can hear those death figures, that sharp rise. He was saying that the NHS is now going in England into the highest level of preparedness, as it did in the first wave. He said, unfortunately, again, we are facing a serious situation. There has been a substantial increase in desperately sick patients in hospital in October. Now, he also said what they most wanted to do was not exactly protect the NHS, but help us to help you. And he said they do not want to cancel operations. They want those to go ahead. They don't want to affect other services. But he said it's already beginning to happen in other countries, mentioning Brussels and France and Sweden. Little glimmer of hope on the vaccines. A letter is going to go out to GPs saying if a vaccine is approved before Christmas, GPs will be asked to help to deliver that.
OK, believe that when we see it. There's new guidance, though, isn't there, on shielding for the extremely vulnerable and also on care homes?
Yes, as you say, two lots of guidance today, and I think there was a lot of dismay across both of them. On the extremely clinically vulnerable, they have been told, or advised rather strongly, to stay at home. They added Down syndrome people to that list as well. There is some concern that the financial support is still not adequate and that some of these vulnerable people might feel inclined to still go to work if they feel forced to, which is what they are not, which they don't want them to do. On the care homes, well, there had been a lot of hope that relatives would be designated key workers and could be tested. Instead, the suggestion is there should be pods or windows that go up between the relative and the resident with phones, sort of Shawshank Redemption style, and that has not gone down at all well. They want to hold their loved ones, not talk to them on a phone through a glass shield.
Thanks, Victoria.